Hey,
Hi,
how you doing?
good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's a lovely day today.
Thanks for willing to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
So I could just,
Thanks for having any interest in talking to me at all.
oh yeah, I could just jump around then with your career so far.
Whatever you'd like to do.
So I know in terms of professional voiceover, it started with doing the singing voice for a Papa Smurf doll.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. I ended up doing just the singing side of it. They I recorded everything, but then they ended up just using me for the singing. So,
Do you remember what year or time frame that was?
oh, two I'm sorry. 2008. I'm not sure. I think maybe something like that. Something in that general vicinity.
And you also remember the job that got you into SAG?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't remember what job got me in. I honestly don't. I want to say it was something for Blizzard, but I'm not sure. Um, but I also did some on camera stuff. So that like I'd been building up to it for a while. I did the Taft Hartley or whatever, and then I finally jumped in. So
Well, I would think one of your first video game experiences was on the Destiny of Zorro.
well, yes. Okay, so fair full disclosure, I actually was helping to work and test on the game itself.
Okay.
And so uh when we were going to do voices and stuff, and they had a casting, and they I think JS Gilbert ended up like doing parts, and but then they had like smaller characters that they were like, oh, we can have him go in and do stuff right here, so I started doing stuff from that, because that was when I started doing um I was working at it on the side. I was like, I kind of want to do voiceover. And so I was working at a game company, and I would occasionally get to do voices in the games that we were working on. And then it just kept snowballing from there. And then got an agent.
Mhm.
And then that's when it really, yeah, the agent, that changes everything, man. When you have people that send you work to do, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you get cast.
And was were your characters in League of Legends your first character parts?
I definitely not. However, I will say that there was a period of time where I was going to a local studio called Somatone, and I was going there quite often. So like there's this sort of like, when you're a working actor, it gets to a point where you're just sort of like, yeah, it's just another game. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that you're not interested in it, and you definitely, once you're in the session, you're having a great time and you're interested. But initially you're just like, oh, I don't know, it's another game job. And with Jax was the first one that I did, and Jax was again, it was just a game job. I was like, okay, cool. I leave, and then like 4 or 5 years later, I get a message from my friend, and he's like, that game is huge, and I'm like, is it? And he's like, oh yeah, man, it's like the most played game in the world. And I'm like, what? So then we started, I was like, oh yeah, that's right on Jax. And then and then Draven, I got Draven after that. So I had already known that the game was pretty big at that point. And man, Draven was, oh, I just love Draven. He's a really fun character. I can't do a whole lot with, it's their character, but I do love it. Who loves some Draven? Absolutely love it.
Do you think you probably had the most affinity with him in terms of characters you played?
I mean, anything you do, it's like, I think I just did a VO panel last weekend, and Jennifer Hale was on it.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, go ahead and just ask me which were my favorite children. When you create the characters, sometimes it's like, oh man. And you go, no, I like this one better. There, I love doing this I really do. I just absolutely love doing voiceover and acting. And so, hey, here we go. They're all wonderful. I love Master Kohga and Draven, and Jax is super fun, and all of them.
Yeah. Who do you think that you personally relate the most to then with who you've played so far?
The Spirit Tree and Ori and the Blind Part. No, the funny thing about that one is it's another favorite character, because we created a language on the fly. Like in the session, we were just like, I was just riffing, and it was just so much fun, you know. They had it written out in English, and then I would unda boko, uda swada, uwa, you know, just come up with something, you know, to make it sound like you're saying a sentence of, of words.
Oh, and then touching on live action work, I guess, yeah, almost got away with it was relatively early.
Yeah, it was so I didn't know much about the show, and it had just started up, and they were saying like, yeah, it's about the guys that like did crimes, and then they almost got away with it, but then obviously they get caught. That's the whole point. That's why they tell the story. But I looked a little like the guy at the time, and they were just like, could you start growing a beard, because I didn't really have a beard. And I would get it scruffy, like for acting class. I would do like a character, and I would get scruff, and then I'd cut it off. And then anyway, so they asked me, and then I ended up just growing the beard out after that. Like I kind of stayed that way. But yeah, it was an interesting show, because it was, you have to do so many different weird things, you know, because you're doing reenacting, and it's like he got a job doing whatever, and I have to be standing there doing something, you know. And I was driving a little bobcat thing, and like it was fun. I was like, yeah, it's something different every day, you know. I was driving a truck by this cop, and then getting pulled over, and it was just interesting. But yeah.
Do you still have aspiration to pursue on camera as much, or?
I like doing on camera a lot, but I have a very specific look, you know, so I can't say that I'm the chameleon actor that can go in there and, you know, become this other. It's like you pretty much get what you're looking at. So I don't think that I will have that kind of success that, you know, oh yes, the guy's a movie star now. No, I think I'm day player. Like I know my role. I know where I'm at. I'm sure everybody would love to become, you know, a huge phenomenon, but I guess, I mean, do you? I mean, being famous kind of sucks too, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
right? I don't know. You've spoken to probably more quote unquote famous people than I have. So what would you say?
I don't know. I mean, I think, well, at least now maybe in their careers, like having done Rosanna Arquette and Leah Thompson, and I don't know, they're more comfortable with it now, but both of them do more directing now too. So
Yeah, I do like directing for sure. I really do enjoy it. I directed a short film that we were doing for like a 48-hour film fest thing.
yeah,
And it was great. I really enjoyed it, and I had such an amazing crew and cast. I wish we had better sound. I guess that's probably the only thing I wish we had better. But other than that, like everything was, it was just great. And the film was really fun and cute. And again, you're doing it in 48 hours, so you can critique the film all you like. It's not the greatest, but it's okay. It had some sound issues. That's one of the biggest problems. But other than that, it was fun, and I enjoy directing because I really enjoy actors. I like working with them, and I think that, you know, sometimes it's just a matter of shutting up and getting out of the way and letting them do their thing. But I do like it. I don't know if I'm good at it, but I guess that's left to the, you know, the eye of the beholder or whatever.
well, if there is one, what's the case where you've been the most starstruck in terms of who you've met or worked with?
Geez, starstruck. Starstruck is funny because it's like, I guess you're right. Yeah, I definitely, because I know one time for sure I had a really awkward exchange with Woody Harrelson, but well, I was actually telling the story last night. I saw him at a studio. He was going in to record something for whatever, and he was, of course, in the area because he was filming on Venom or whatever. And I wanted to talk about the fact that my mom had always told me that there was a rumor, probably made up by my mom. I have no idea, right? I don't know the truth, right? That we were somehow related, and that one half of the family dropped one of the R's and went out to the West. And so I don't know if any of it's true, but so when I meet him, he comes walking in and I go, oh, hey, I was wondering if we were related, the Harrelson side. And then I just realized, what did I just do? And I was like, you know, like, and went back to looking at my phone because I just didn't know what to say. And he stood there for a second and he goes, all right, and then walked away and went into the studio. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so ridiculous. So I was mortified. I just absolutely was mortified. And then you know, in voiceover sometimes you'll record something and they'll be like, oh, go take a break and we'll let you know if we need anything. We're going to put stuff together and get the clients on the line and all that. So you're like, all right. So you're just hanging at the studio. So that's what I was doing. I was just sitting there waiting, and then I got called in. So I go in and I changed, I think, one word, which was hilarious. And then I came back out, and then there's Woody like going to the restroom or something, and I bump into him, and I'm like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And then he was right in front of me, and right before he got to like the bathroom area, I said, well, Mr. Carnage or whatever. And he's like, he goes, yeah. And then we're walking, and he turns to go to the bathroom and then stops, twists back. And I'm just like, just get out of here. I'm so embarrassed. I just got to get out. And he goes, they never told you why they dropped the R? And I go, oh, no, to be honest with you, I don't even know if it's true. My mom just told me some rumor, and she's passed now, so I can't really, you know, like call her on it or anything. And he's like, huh, I should find out. And then goes into the bathroom, and that was it. So I was like, we were talking last night. I said, I think I salvaged my awkward meeting into something that was kind of funny. But yeah, it was a real. But I mean, I will say that working with Steve Howie on like Unleashed and Kate Micucci and them, and there's Sean Astin, you know, or so I'm like, what the, you know what I mean? But I think I kept my cool pretty well. You know, I didn't really communicate with a lot of them because, you know, Kate Micucci was super nice though. I was sort of by the makeup thing or whatever. So she was there, and then she started asking me questions and talking to me, and I was like, wow, you're nice. So yeah, I've had some pretty good interactions, I guess, with celebrities and stuff. But yes, one that I was so, you know, felt like it was so awkward, and then I feel like I salvaged it. I hope. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he doesn't remember it. Yeah.
Well, it sort of ties into that. Has there been like a bucket list franchise for you personally that you've gotten to work on?
Being loosely associated to the Zelda series was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Blizzard, almost anything Blizzard, you know, obviously that's I love their work. Yeah, I don't know, there's plenty you'd love to do, you know what I mean? I'd love to get that big lead in something, you know, as like an Uncharted or something amazing like that. But at the same time, yeah, I'm pretty happy with, like, I've done cool work that I enjoy. I also do all kinds of other styled stuff. Like, I don't do just video games. I do, you know, sleep stories on the Calm app. And I have my own podcast of them. So I like try to use the voice in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, yeah, firm believer that, you know, commercials are pretty much what you make any money on.
Right.
And then, but video games are the funnest. That's the reality. They're just so fun because you get to be these wild, weird characters, mm-hmm. stuff like that. And of course, when you reached out, you were talking about Fire Emblem, and I was like, man, I don't have too much to offer about Fire Emblem, because I literally, like, I didn't even know what was happening. Like, they didn't, you know how a lot of these, they don't tell you even what you're working on.
Yeah.
Like even the Zelda thing, or the Hyrule Warriors or whatever. When I got that, I still didn't know what it was. There was, you know, and it just said villain. Like, that was the whole audition, was just evil villain, twisting mustache kind of guy. And I'm like, okay. So I did a couple of, like, you know, takes, and I sent it off, and then I got a call and I was booked. And until I walked into the actual booth, had no idea what I was going to be working on. And then the girl goes, oh, the script's on the tablet or whatever. And I'm like, okay, great. And I go, what's this? What is this? What's it for? Whatever. And she just goes, oh, you know, they'll tell you, they'll let you know everything. And I go, oh, okay. And then I'm looking at the script, and the engineer sits down, and I look at her because I just saw the name Zelda rise up through the script. And I go, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, yes. And she just starts laughing. Like, she, you know, she was just like, I think enjoyed my moment of, oh, I'm going to be in this thing.
Mm-hmm. I know you've done an interview of solely about Kohga already, but for people who aren't aware or haven't seen it, like, how did you approach his character and doing that voice?
He's just a villain, you know, ha ha ha, I'll get mine, you'll get yours, you know. But then they wanted some actual sort of like menace to him at times. So there's a, oh, well, I don't mind, but you're gonna have to die. You know what I mean? Like, he still has to be a bad guy, but all of the comic relief moments, it's just what? No, I'm the top banana. You know, like it just that's the fun, the beauty of playing with a character like that. They're meant to be kind of silly, and I think that's something that I probably do a pretty decent job of, maybe even more than I do when it's a serious character or something.
Yeah. Well, and with Fire Emblem, I know how short those sessions are for Heroes, but
yeah, it's not a very long session, and you know, they told me, they were like, oh, this character is like known in the universe but never been voiced or whatever, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I was very excited about that, but I just didn't know the character at all. And then somebody reached out and said, like, welcome to the Fire Emblem family or something, and I was like, oh, thank you. I did not, you know. And they're really nice. Like, I think it was Patrick that was actually directing me in that, and he's really nice. Patrick Seitz, I believe. Yeah, he's awesome. He's a really, really nice guy. It's funny because there's a few actors that do directing, and they'll do, like, not necessarily a line read, but they'll do something that's sort of, you know, giving you an idea, and you're just like, why did you hire me again? Because you can do this like better than I can. Like, so yeah, it's always fun though. Like, it's because it's, you know, the actor knows the actor in a way, you know, so they're like, yeah, do it more like, you know, I will get you, you know, and you're like, thank you, I will get you. You just do. I love it. I actually don't mind line reads at all. I think they're great. I'd rather somebody tell me exactly what you want so that it sounds cool as hell.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting too that your character is a lot. He, like, that was his debut in the game, and then he also had the, it wasn't just a normal skin, it was like the wedding attire.
Yeah. And it was funny because I do recall them talking about the awkward line where he's like, do I look all right? You know, like, I went really cheesy on one of the takes, I remember, and they were like, oh man, and they were laughing, but then they were like, okay, we got to get one that, like, you know, isn't too awkward, like it's just right there at the edge. And so I worked at that one a couple times, and then they were like, awesome, we got it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they probably have other versions of me saying things that, yeah.
Were you familiar at all with the franchise?
No, I wasn't really. I mean, I'd heard the name, but I didn't know much about it. And so that's what was kind of, maybe that was weird, but at the same time, you know, the people that are making it, they always have an expert there. You know what I mean? Like, if they're working on a character, either the director is fully aware of what's going on and they don't need anybody around. Otherwise, yeah, there's somebody from the team, you know what I mean? and they're always, like, the dev team, they're always like, yes, and he does this, and he should say it like this, and you're like, okay, cool. Like, and it's great, and you can hear the excitement in it, you know what I mean? They love it, the passion, they love it, and that's what I enjoy. I think it's fun working with people and passion and things like that, artistic endeavors like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know one of the main other like anime JRPG kind of things you did was in Sands of Destruction. That was a fun character.
What's funny is he is that was like an early Draven in a way. Yeah. You know, that was like a really, like, I was all, what? He's a teddy bear? And then but then I see the picture and it's all spiky teeth, and I'm like, oh wow. So I just thought, you gotta be some meaty big voice inside a little tiny teddy bear. So yeah, that was super fun. I love that one. And that was pretty early for me. And that was like I don't know. I just got lucky. You know what I mean? When they said, okay, yeah, we'll cast you. I'm like, I love this. This is so cool. Mm-hmm. And then to have it, you know, actually come out and I could hold it. And that was early for me as well. That was a pretty early one. I remember I had to go down to like San Mateo. Like, it was, you know, I had to go a couple towns over to go to the studio, and it was cool. The guys they were really nice. This guy Greg was really cool. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
it is surprising. I mean, I'm guessing it's a union thing, but it is surprising that you haven't been in more anime or anime stuff.
I have not. Well, first of all, I guess they do a lot of it in like Houston.
Yeah.
And then they do a bunch with like Bang Zoom out in, like, you know, the Valley out in Burbank or whatever. I mean, I'm in San Francisco, so for me, it's like I'm probably just at the edge of their scope, you know what I mean? Of like when they send out the auditions, maybe my agent doesn't get it, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Um, I now am starting to get more and more of those, like getting to see them, and I'm like, oh, cool. I love auditioning for this, you know. But yeah, I haven't done much. Yeah, that's for sure.
Mhm. Are there any anime series that you're personally a fan of?
Uh, I can't say I watch a lot, although I did watch. Well, I mean, I guess the last thing I watched was like Arcane, which was pretty amazing. Although I don't know if that's considered anime. We watched that they had the Star Wars thing where a different anime person did stuff.
Yeah.
We've seen lots of the Miyazaki or whatever. But yeah, I haven't watched a lot of anime, like Attack on the Titan or whatever. It's not something I've really watched, or it looks cool. Like I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. I mean, I remember watching Akira back in the day. Felt like you had to watch that. It was like part of your, like a staple of like, at least you must know something about anime. I always loved Dragon Ball. That was super
Okay.
fun. Yeah, I had a good time with Dragon Ball. I had a couple of friends that were into it, and they were really into it. So I would like go over, and they would be showing it all the time, and I'm like, oh, this is fun.
Mhm.
On the next Dragon Ball Z.
Right. Well, going back to your characters, what do you, or throughout voiceover in general, what do you think is the case where you've had to get the darkest emotionally involved headspace?
It's funny to say, but like I will say that like Walking Dead was something that there's, especially like in the later there was Randy or whatever, and again, nobody saw this guy.
Mhm.
Like nobody. He just, it was in a, you had to select a certain way to go to finally get to him, and so nobody really ever saw it. But he was, it was the quote unquote Oscar moment that Julian told. He's like, all right, this is like, you're gonna be your moment here, and your Oscar. I go, my Oscar moment. He goes, yeah, yeah. He's like, you're really emotional. You're terribly scared. There's zombies everywhere, and you're just asking to get let in. And I was just like, and I kind of tried to go there as much as I could, you know, and it was, you know, emotional for a second there. And again, it's like one line, you know what I mean? Like there's not a whole lot to the guy.
Mhm.
And but it was super cool. I guess I mean, I'm trying to think of characters that I've done that are like really, really dark, and it's a little shaky to get there. I'm a little more one of the so I know there's different kinds of actors. Some people are really like, get in and I've got to be in the character forever, and then I feel fantastic, and now we can call action. You know, I am more like, you know, action, hey, I turn it on, I just do it. Which maybe that means I'm not as good an actor, I don't know. But I do appreciate getting there for sure. I did a short film called Priority Mail, and it was on camera, and part of it was that I was supposed to be this washed up like ex rock star or something like that. So there was stuff all in my beard. It was awful. And I remember that they wanted a scene where I'm like basically signing my soul away, and they had a camera set up with a clear plastic so that I could sign over my image in frame. And I remember I had to get there and be there crying, you know, like for a while. And I got there, and then the camera crew was like, they hate something that was bothering them about the lighting, and they kept adjusting. And I was like sitting there going, guys, now we have to do it now. I'm over here miserable. It was fun. It was definitely getting into a character for sure.
Do you think you have this is probably obvious, but do you think you have a personal preference for doing more dramatic opposed to comedic stuff?
um I think I do comedic pretty well, just because I started, when I started like, you know, taking classes in acting and stuff, I was doing a lot of like stage work.
Yeah.
So I've always had sort of big, what, you know, big, you know, too big for film, you know what I mean? Like in film, I remember I was doing some movie, and I think they ended up editing me almost completely out of it. But I remember I did a look. They said, "Okay, now get it," and then like look at them and be like, and I go, "Okay," so that's what I did, and they were like, "Less." So then it was like, and they're like, "I think that work." Like I was like, "How much am I doing?" Like, and I guess it's just natural. I just, my face gets pretty big. But I enjoy doing it, and yeah, when you get toned down, it's a better performance. But like I said, I love comedy because I feel like I can do well in that space, or at least slightly better. I can fall down. I can Chris Farley it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can absolutely go, oh Jesus, you know, like I feel like I can do that pretty well. But I do love dramatic roles because as we were talking about, like you want to get into a character, you want to get deep into that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm just happy doing what I do. I'm very long-winded answer to say I just love doing what I do. I love being an actor.
How about the case where you've had to alter your voice the most significantly?
Well, so there's a animated movie that has never been released. It is still in process. My friend is still trying to make this thing, and it's been like 10, 12 years or something ridiculous. It's been a long time he's been working on this. And I got to do this grasshopper named Bok Choy. And I absolutely love this guy. Oh, come on. No, seriously. You know, like I find him very funny. He's the comic relief of the movie. And I love him. I think he's and that is definitely taking the voice way up there, you know. So that's super fun. I love that. I love him. It's called White Tiger Legend, and I hope it finally gets finished. They have a trailer out for it now on your webs. There you can find it. That is, it's really cool. It's like, but it's taken them years to get to this point. You know, like it's him and like a couple of guys will do audio or do some, you know, art and stuff like that. And he's worked for Weta and, you know, ILM and stuff like that. He actually told me a great story about drawing what's his name, Ewan McGregor, as Obi-Wan Kenobi, but in the movie he blinked too much for George Lucas's liking, and so he had to digitally draw his eyes open and reduce the amount of blinking that was happening from Ewan McGregor because Jedis don't blink that much. It was hilarious. And he told me that story, and I was like, wow, you had to sit there. And he's, yep. And he's like, I had to composite the whole thing, like all the time. I had to go through the film, and every time he like was inappropriate blinking, you had to get it out. Made me laugh so hard. I thought that was hilarious. But anyway, his name's Corey, and he's a great guy, and he's working on this movie, and it's called White Tiger Legend. Hopefully you guys can find it and give the trailer a view. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Has there been a case where it was difficult to sustain a character voice that you got?
Anytime you're doing the like Cookie Monster-y kind of, you know, that kind of stuff, like that wears on you after a little while. I've even I've had that happen in sleep stories and stuff. Like as I'm reading, you know, going along and you're having a pleasant rest and everything is suddenly like I would just start getting like putting myself to sleep. But yeah, it will, if I sit in the low end like that for a while, my nose will start running, it's literally vibrating my head. So it's like, it cracks me up. I'm like, oh, that is really funny. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My nose is running now.
And so when did you start doing music, or were you always doing music?
I honestly thought I was going to be a rock star from, you know, day one. I was like, man, this is what I'm going to do. And wanted to, didn't have enough skill, I think is the truth. I started singing in bands because I was like, yeah, you know, I rock and roll. And it was the one thing that I could actually do. I can play very rudimentary stuff on a guitar because it gives me ideas for songs. So I'll like make up a thing and then I'll go, or even sometimes single notes and give it to like, go to my guitarist and go here, like, dun, 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 you know, and he's like, oh, okay, I got you. And then he'll play it and much better. And then we'll write songs because I've already got the lyrics put together. I'm ready, you know? So I just loved it. And I thought that's what I was going to be. And then I got through, I guess we'll call it going into sort of college. I went to a radio school or whatever, but it sort of died away for me for a little while. And then it picked back up and, you know, for a while, and I'd play with a band, and then I left it all and picked it up again years later and ended with Kryptic Memories. We played for quite a few years, just locally. Never really went on any big tours, never got, you know, rich and famous. But we put stuff on iTunes, I think, or Spotify. It's out there. There's only like 4 songs, but hey, it's out there.
Yeah, I did listen to a few of the stuff that you guys put out, and you have it was pretty surprising. I wouldn't have expected that you were singing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I also hate the fact that I named one of the songs. I wrote a song called All Lives Matter, but I meant it as like,
Yeah.
stop the police brutality. But then we put it out, and it was right when these racist people were doing this whole like all lives matter, and I was like, oh no.
Right.
So I know why that song never took off. Garbage Man was pretty silly. I 6:18 a.m. or whatever. That was always a favorite of, and that was actually a song from an earlier band. Some of the members were the same in Kryptic Memories as in a band called Seder that I was in a long time ago. And so we were like, oh, it's like we rejoined. So we brought in some of the old catalog to to play in Kryptic Memories. So yeah, we had a good time with those.
Some of the more some of the songs kind of reminded me of Korn.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I would love to be in that territory. I think Korn's probably a little harder, but yeah, I mean, and I'm no Jonathan or whatever. I'm not that good, although I did do. What's funny is, how he does that like scat thing, so I remember that when that was happening, I got into doing stuff like that. I thought it was really cool, almost like scat in a way, like metal scat. And wow, that sounds terrible. But I was really into it, loved it. I also love, like, I had songs where I would sort of mouth myself like I'm on a bullhorn, and I'd adjust my voice a little bit, and I just love doing audio tricks, but I wanted organic audio tricks. I didn't want an effects pedal for it. I wanted to be able to actually do it myself, which I thought was really cool. It's like, again, it's different ways of using the human voice, I love that stuff. It's bizarre, and I'm sure people maybe didn't appreciate it as much as I would hope they did, but
Yeah.
you do what you do.
Well, vocally, for your singing style, or who are some of your influences?
Jim Morrison.
Mhm.
I mean, when I was in high school, I was doing hair metal-y, whatever, and I was doing high, we are the sleaze, that kind of stuff. And so I always thought I was going to be, yeah, I'm going to be that kind of singer. And then as I moved on, I ended up appreciating people like Morrison and the crooner aspect. I think I'm more of a crooner than I am a like heavy metal singer or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a different style for sure. And I would definitely say that, the day destroys the night divides. Definitely Morrison for sure. I would say that was a huge influence.
Oh, well, I know, back to your roles, I guess your role in Ninjala, that's kind of anime.
Yeah. And that was, I don't know. It's funny too, because I did like an episode as the character, and then I was like, oh, I don't think he ever comes back. And then they called me back and said, oh, guess what? He has a twin brother. And I was like, what? So then I got to do another episode. But yeah, they were hoping, I think it would maybe take off a little more than it has. So I don't know much about it, but it was pretty funny. Yeah. I love the old man. Yeah, I'm the master. That kind of.
Yeah. Has there been many cases where you've gotten to perform with yourself?
Can I play with myself? Yeah, I have performed with myself a couple times. It's actually, there's one in my demo that I still leave in there because I think it's hilarious. There's 2 guys that are like at this water plane thing, and there's like a raft or something, and the guy's like, hurry up and fix this thing, and he's like, we've been here for like for hours or something like that, and the guy goes, it's been 15 minutes. There's something going on with those guys over there. I don't trust them. That was kind of funny that I was both characters in the scene, which I thought was pretty silly.
Are you comfortable listening to yourself in certain projects, or does it depend?
I mean, as an actor, we're always happy to see ourselves. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, it doesn't bother me. There are things that like I can say that I don't think I've really ever listened to any of my sleep stories, other than when I'm making it.
Yeah.
You know, like the podcast version is just me reading classics that I can get for free. You know what I mean? So that in those cases, it's like, yeah, it's really, I have to sit and listen to it as I'm cutting out all the breaths and everything like that. So, you know, but other than that, yeah, I don't mind hearing my voice, I guess. But yeah, I know plenty of people are just sort of like, oof, I just don't even want to hear my voice.
Yeah. What about like do you play any of the games that you're in?
Rarely. I mean, I actually tried playing a little of League of Legends, but I was so bad at it that I just was like, oh, I am not good. Like I used to be really good at video games. I tested them. I literally was a professional video game player, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. League of Legends came at a time where it's not something I was hip on, and I tried playing it, and I was just awful. I was a tower diver. Uh, I don't know how because everything's about like cooldowns and using the things when you have to do it and knowing and timing it all, and then beating minions and like I get the strategy of it, but I was just awful at it. I just could not play the game right. I just click. What's happening? Yeah. But yeah, I haven't played a lot of them. I did play a little bit of Ori just because I was like, well, I want to see the game. It's beautiful, you know, and fun. And yeah, the parts when the spirit tree comes in, you're like, I've never played Hyrule Warriors or Kohga or anything like that. I've watched a couple of pieces of people like doing let's play kind of stuff. Which is also nice because you can clip the audio and add that to your demo. So it gives you a little something. But yeah, I don't play a lot. I mean, it's also very rare that they actually give you a copy of it. I think 2K is the only one that has been adamant about making sure I get a copy of NBA 2K. Like almost every time I do it, they make sure they give me a code so I can go get the game if I want it. So I've had it for like they've sent me copies a couple years in a row, and I'm like, oh, thank you. This is awesome. I am such a small, tiny piece of that thing, and you still made sure to give me one, and I appreciate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were super nice. But yeah, most of the time you don't even get a copy, so you're like, will I ever see this thing? I don't know. Like it has to be a game that I go, oh, I want to go play that, and then I go, oh, that's right. You know, I worked on it, or I don't know I worked on it, and I'm like, oh, let's just go get it. I want to check it out. And then, you know, again, if it's League of Legends or something, I may not be that good at it, and I just get frustrated, and I go, rage quit.
So I know, well, it was sort of recently, you got to be in 13 Reasons Why.
Oh yes, yeah, the series for Netflix or whatever. Yeah, again, I'm a day player. You know what I mean? Like when they need a guy who looks a little odd. And by the way, there was 3 of us that were the protester people.
Yeah.
And I was technically listed as protester 2, and it was really funny because the other guys 2, 1, and 3 got basically cut out.
Oh.
So you just see me for a second, and that was it. And I was like, oh wow. Yeah, the editing is brutal, you know what I mean? and I was the only one listed as protester 2, which I was like, oh my god, that's a freaking, you couldn't have given my character a name or something, protester Jim, you know, or something like. But they were all really nice. It's Paramount. They were really cool, and it was shot. They've done all the shooting up here in Northern California, so like yeah, it was a chance. Anytime somebody does, you know, shooting in an area and you're a day player, you might get a small role to hop on for like a, you know, because they're not gonna, they'll hire or cast most of the people in LA or something like that, wherever the thing's at, you know. I know people that do like work up in, you know, Vancouver and Montreal and stuff, and you see them in every like sci-fi show. You're like, oh, okay, well, they clearly do all the shooting up there in that studio, so makes sense. You'd have local actors come in.
Yeah, I would take it in terms of voiceover that you still do everything remotely.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I have gone in for the sleep stories because it's so quiet. They want like the nicest setup. They have a crazy, like they'll have like a U87 and a 416 on me at the same time, which is a lot going on. And so, yeah, they've had me go to studios, but for the most part, yeah, I've been doing a lot of remote work. I have Source Connect, which I always shout this from the mountaintops that I was early adopter on that one. And so I'm very proud of myself because I spent the money when everybody was like, I don't know if that one's ever going to take off, bro. And then the pandemic happened and I was like, yes, like, you know what I mean? Because people are like, do you have Source Connect? I'm like, yes, I sure do.
Mhm.
So yeah, that helped me out for sure. That allowed us to pay rent during the COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically we're not even out of it yet, but yes, it has allowed me to pay rent and for sure work in other markets too. You know, working again a lot more in LA and other places. You know, so that's pretty cool.
Mhm. Well, I know most recently it is more anime game stuff with Triangle Strategy and Lost Ark.
Yeah, that was my first foray, I think, into the Square Enix world.
Yeah.
They're very nice folks. Everybody that I worked with, I should say, which again is probably a subcontractor of them, you know, but or of the developer or whatever. But yeah, it very, very cool. And they just said, you know, we want again another character that has never been voiced. So, and we picked you as though, and I'm like, wow, thank you. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I knew nothing about that game, and they told me the name, and I was like, Triangle Strategy game? Like, what the hell is that? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then they were like, oh no, like in Japan, it's you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I'm huge in Japan. No, I'm not. I'm kidding. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I really like it, and I think Lost Ark recently that was another one that but was like a Korean MMO or whatever. uh yeah, and they're super cool. The games are pretty amazing, and but it is different because you're doing a Japanese, like they'll play the Japanese actor,
Right.
so you'll hear it in Japanese, and sometimes I'm like, wow, he sounds way more angry, or he sounds more this or more that, and they're like, no, but we like what you're doing, just do what you're doing. I'm like, okay. And they're like, it's for the balance of the American market or whatever, or something like that. And I'm like, okay, that works for me.
And considering your experience up until whenever you did start doing dubbing, did you take to it easier, or was it still difficult to get used to?
Um, well, dubbing's fine. The problem I have is, you know, obviously translation, and you know, Japanese, they literally can say a couple of words and it can be like a sentence in English, you know what I mean? And so it definitely, you have to figure out how you can say the same thing. And there are times that somebody's, you know, they've translated the script, but then they look at it and they go, there's just no way we're getting that in 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds, or you know what I mean? So you have to be, and if you know, are you're in the session and you're sitting there with them and you're like, what if I just said, like, you know, watch out, or you know, or whatever it is, you know, and they go, oh, that's not bad, try that. And then I would do it and they'll go, does it time out okay? Whether or not there's lip flap involved, that's another thing, you know. That's pretty brutal if there's lip flap. And I've actually done some stuff recently where I was like, even the Ninjala, I really couldn't see everything like fully real time when I was recording it. So like I would listen to them and then see if I could put the words in a way that would work for them, that would might match the flap at the same time. So it was very interesting. And Ninjala was like, I had my phone with like the video playing and a tablet with the script, and I was like standing there going, okay, all right, let's do this. You know, it was but fun. You
Yeah.
know, it those challenges are amazing, that people forget the mental aspect of this work. You know, you know, people will say things, obviously really jerky things like, no, I was kidding. But like, you know, oh, you just stand in front of a mic, and it's like, yeah, it's not that simple, because you really are acting and you're using all your brain power, you know, and it's all there. It's, yeah, I'm not doing a, you know, lifting heavy boxes or something or digging ditches, but it will tax you. It is brutal. So the challenges are fun when you get these weird sort of like, how am I going to make this work and still give a good performance and stuff?
Mhm.
It's a challenge and it's fun, and that's what makes it so awesome.
Mhm. Do you have an answer for what do you think the most exhausting session you've had is?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I've had a couple that I like left sweaty. I left, you know, I mean, I was like, wow, I am beat. I'm gonna go take a nap.
Yeah.
There was specifically there, and not that they were being hard on me, but there was like a Blizzard one that I did one time that I was like, wow, I did it pretty fast. They were like, oh, you really kind of blew through the material, and I'm like, great. But I will admit, I was definitely vocally stressed at the end of it, like, because there was a couple of the joke I always say, which I can't say I've had to do a lot of, but if they ask you something like, okay, you're being killed by fire, like you're being burned alive, and you're just like, oh my, and it's like you're screaming as if you're literally on fire, and so yeah, you don't have much of a voice after that. But yeah, I usually have done pretty well. I haven't been beat up too bad, but yeah, I'm telling you, you put the mental work into this, I can have an hour session and walk out and just be like, okay, hold on a minute, because you've gone through these experiences as the actor. You know what I mean? I was just saving the freaking world by the way. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? Like in the game, you're technically doing whatever to save the princess or the world or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, for a little while, you actually feel like you're doing it, so you get a little burnt.
So is there anything else that's upcoming that you're part of that you can safely talk about?
Well, I can talk about, so my friend wrote a couple of books.
Okay.
Hardboiledmagic.com, and it's this character who goes through, it's sort of like somebody said it's like Dresden Files mixed with something else, I can't remember, but he's a detective who does weird occurrences, things that break the laws of physics.
Okay.
And so we just did a Kickstarter for that, and I think it's actually done now. And yeah, so I'm working on his book, and then I work on podcasts that I do for me. The only one that I really seem to focus on anymore is the Sleepy Time broadcast, because they're sleep stories and people seem to absolutely love them. The rest of them, I have the broadcast and Storytime broadcast, but there hasn't been a lot of stuff on there. Although there is samples as bonus episodes in Storytime of the audiobook I'm doing. So if anybody wants to go check it out and see what it's all about, you can do that. But yeah, I have constantly working on projects with a team called 3 Pound Magician, 3lbmagician.com. We are putting together like short film stuff. We're trying to work on, like we made an audio drama called Clarion Dawn a couple of years ago, well, during pandemic, and we put it out, and it's, people seem to like it. It's like 8 episodes. It's a mind twist, shall we say. There's another word I would use, but I should probably be appropriate. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So yeah, I'm working on lots of stuff. I got another one that we're gonna do, but we lost our editor for the time being, our sound designer, and he's really busy. That's what it is. He's just so busy, and none of us are actually making any money doing this, so we just do them for fun. Cool. But yeah, that's I'm sure what I can talk about. I can't talk about any of the stuff that's coming, and there's cool stuff coming. I'm very excited about that, but I can't talk about it because they make you sign these NDAs and all that stuff. So you have to go like, oh, I'm working on, yeah, no. Can I tell you which developer I've worked with? Well, if you tell them that, then they'll probably figure out what you're actually talking about, what you worked on. I'm like, oh, right. Ooh, yeah. So it just sucks.
Yeah.
As they say, hashtag NDAs suck.
Mm-hmm. Well, my final question then is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, you know what? It's funny because I'm old enough now that I honestly have been thinking about that, going like, oh, what is my legacy going to be? And I'm frightened that I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm going to have, I mean, I have, characters that I've done or something like that. I really hope it's that I'm a good human. I really, that's kind of all I really want, is to make sure that people believe that, or understand that I was or am or whatever, a real decent human being who cares about other people. And, I can't say I'm saving the world in any way, but at least I did something that entertained and possibly gave people comfort and some, in some way, whether it's the sleep stories for the comfort and things like that, or entertained you by doing Draven, or, any of those kind of things, Master Kohga, like, yeah, that's really the best you can hope for, is to be a good, solid human being. And I'll tell you, I've met quite a few of them in this industry, many. And I know if I mention even one, then others might get offended thinking I don't think they're a great human, but I've met many, and they're just solid humanity that I'm like, man, you're so nice. And I that's what I aspire to be, is hopefully I can be as nice as they are. So, you know, when you meet nice celebrities, you're always like, man, that is awesome. I really appreciate rooting for you and watching your stuff. Any content you make, you know, like I'll get it just because you're in it, because you're nice. You know what I mean? When you meet people like that, gosh, that I love that. That's what I hope to be. I hope I have a legacy like that too. I hope that people go like, that guy was nice. He's a good human, you know?
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Oh yeah, I'm glad we got to too, man. Yeah, it was cool that you just reached out and you were like, and I was like, wow, I don't know what I have to offer about Fire Emblem, but I can tell you this, I'm always happy to chat. Like I like doing it. And then I watched a couple, or at least one of your interviews, and I was like, wow, he does research. Like you are definitely a researcher, that's for sure. Yeah. Let alone I mean, you know, you're journalist. It's a journalist kind of trait or whatever. Is this what you're going to do, like moving forward? What other kinds of journalistic kind of endeavors do you do?
Well, I would hope that this can eventually become like a primary job sort of thing, because I pursued it through high school and all that. So that's my goal. That's my goal.
Right. Well, you could get, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's people that do that kind of stuff for all kinds of good and evil purposes. You can go stalk people pretty well. No, I'm kidding. But no, I mean, I appreciate that you asked me about basically all of my career, which I think is pretty cool. And that makes it, I don't know, nice. Makes you're like, oh yeah, I did that thing and people appreciate it. Woo, you know?
Yeah. Well, I knew that just when I was going through the Fire Emblem Heroes cast list of people I haven't talked to yet, I just knew when I saw the headshot that was associated with it was the one where you have sunglasses on. I knew it would be.
Oh yes. I wanted so badly to be in Sons of Anarchy. And so I had a friend that was like, oh, let's do a photo shoot of you. So put the glasses on and the whole bit. And I go, okay. So I did it. And I had literally a Sam Crow shirt. Like I had ordered one from their fan thing or whatever. And so I was like, oh, and then literally tried to send it to the casting lady that's listed in the show. And of course, I never heard anything from that. But I did it because I was like, well, why not? It was fun. We had a day where we just took pictures. So I dressed up and pretended to be Mr. Biker Man. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'll be sure to send it to you once I have it up if you want to see it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, man. Happy Friday.
Yeah. Bye.